Hello everyone and welcome to the Quickstarter session of my course. I think one of the best ways to get going with this course is to study this particular section together with the model games, because I think a lot of people tend to neglect the model game section because it's just sitting there at the bottom of the screen, and it takes a lot of time to go through all the lines. I get it. But yeah, the model games, I think it's really a must. So in case you're thinking to skip it, just don't. Okay. And yeah, I think we can start looking at what I think, are one of the, most important variations that we are covering in this course. And, we will start by looking at my recommendation against the, Caro-Kann, which starts after the moves e4 and now c6. Black is basically preparing to, step in the center, with d5, and after d4, d5. There are a lot of moves in this position available for white, but we will be focusing on the super trendy f3, which is the so-called fantasy variation, and it basically has the point that we are defending the e4 pawn, trying to protect and keep our strong pawn center. And what I really love about this variation is that nowadays it's getting more and more popular, being played in the candidates championship. Candidates matches. I think they're precisely called by Maxime Bachelograph. And also we've seen one of the best players in the world, Fabiano Caruana, with the white pieces, going for the system in a number of times, as we will see in the model games section as well. So this variation is very new, and it sort of became more popular because the other lines were just very deeply analyzed, and therefore people are trying to search for fresh positions where you can try to outplay your opponent. And against f3, I think that would sum it up as sort of the, let's say, important modern history of the line that you need to know. And yeah, Fabiano Caruana, one of the main players that we're following, as we did in my Sicilian course. If you have checked that one out, Fabiano Caruana, again, one of the main ambassadors when it comes to 1e4. So yeah, after f3, black has a number of lines. I would say the most popular one would be to go for d takes on e4, and then the second most popular line would be to play the solid move e6 in this particular position. But we are going to start by looking at, quickly looking at some of the less popular options as well. So we're going to be starting with the move g6, for example, which is what a lot of players tend to do, even against 3 knight c3 in this position, or against like 3 knight d2. There are some players who are going to go for g6 anyways. So against f3, for them, it's not really that important what you do. They're going to play g6 anyways. So yeah, you have to be sort of aware of how you should be arranging your pieces. So we're going to be playing knight c3, and after bishop to g7, it's really important to play e5. And we're sort of shutting down this bishop on g7. Now black usually goes h5, preparing to develop the knight to h6, and then maybe even go knight f5, or ideas of playing bishop f5, as we will see. So after h5, I like the move bishop f4, black goes knight h6, and here it's important to play queen d2, and we are seeking to go for long castle. Black goes something like bishop e6, we go castle long, and after b5, we can simply play the move h4, because we are not afraid of any b4 ideas attacking our knight, because we can simply play knight a4, and all of a sudden this square on c5 has become very vulnerable. After something like queen a5, attacking the knight, we are quite safe to play knight c5, because the pawn on a2 is not really capturable, since we can take on b4, and then black has nothing useful to do with his queens. It's queen a1 check, can simply be met by king d2, and white is much better. So no need to be afraid of this b4 move. And after something more natural like knight d7, we can just break with g4. And after a takes g4, important to not recapture, but go h5. We are threatening to take on g6, open up this rook, and this knight on h6 will be hanging. and white is getting quite a nice initiative already. So I think this is a very nice line to start with against this g6, and we can move on to the other sidelines that we have against f3. So after f3, black can also try the move queen b6. This is, I wouldn't really call it a sideline, since it actually has quite good value as a move. I think this is a very interesting alternative for black to play. But it is not as common as d takes on e4 or as 3e6. So after queen b6, it's important to play knight c3. Basically, the idea of this queen b6 move, by the way, is that by playing f3, we sort of made this diagonal more vulnerable, and black usually has ideas to play with e5 and try to exploit it. But as you'll see, if you do the right thing, this is not really that particularly threatening. So we can play knight c3, and here black has two main ways of playing that I've covered in this Quickstarter section. One of them is e6, and now I really like to play the move a3. So basically, we are preparing to develop this bishop, but then the b2 pawn will be a problem. So we want to be playing a3, and now, for example, after knight d7, we can just play the move bishop to e3. Since queen takes on b2 would simply allow the nice knight to a4, and now you can see that all of a sudden the queen is trapped. And this is one of the main reasons of why we have played the a2, a3 on the previous move, because queen b4 is not going to be a thing, and also we have black no longer has options of going queen a3 to save the queen. So you can see that this square is also taken, and this one as well. Also no queen c3 checks, so black is just lost. And yeah, after bishop to e3, there would be better to play the move knight g to f6, but here I really like to play the move bishop to e2. And you have to really understand this thing, because here black is setting up a trap. If we are playing the most natural e5 move, you may be wondering, attacking the knight. We would be really happy if black would have to go back with his knight. There is knight takes on e5, and you can see the point of having played this annoying queen b6 move. So now that you are aware of this nasty trap, we can play bishop e2, and now we're actually creating a threat of going e5 in the next move, because the same motive will no longer work, because we will be capturing the f6 knight at the end, because queen takes on e3 will no longer come with a check. So after bishop to e2, black usually takes, and after pawn takes, they tend to play bishop to e7. And here it's important to be very precise on how you want to develop the knight, because the most common knight f3 move will allow some annoying knight g4 jumps, hitting the bishop, and then, black will also potentially have ideas of taking on b2. I mean, not immediately, because there will be still knight a4 ideas, but you really want to be careful about how you are going to be placing your pieces. So after bishop e7, I really like the move knight h3, because we are preparing also short castle, but as you will see, we don't always go for it. But it's a nice move to have, and we can also prepare queen e2 and castle long. But keep in mind that we're never allowing this knight g4 idea. So black usually strikes in the center with e5. Otherwise, white is getting quite a risk-free advantage. But I really like the move queen d2 here. And again, queen takes on b2 is not a great move. There is no longer knight a4 because the rook will be hanging. But we can play rook a2, denying the queen, and after queen b6, we can take on e5. And you can see that black is facing a very unpleasant double attack, and white is winning a piece. So queen d2, queen c7 is a better move, but after d5, bishop c5, and castle long, I really like white's position, and we can be considering something like a knight f2, followed by g4, h4, and it's really not so simple for black to find a safe place for his king, since if he goes on the short side, then we can go for this quick attack with g4, h4, and then if he also goes on the long side, and I mean the king is never really safe there as well. So that would be pretty much it about this super solid e6 move. but you also have to be aware of the fact that black can also take on e4 in this position. And after d takes on e4, it is quite important that you don't go for the supernatural pawn takes on e4, but instead we're going for this interesting gambit with bishop c4. And this is really quite a common theme for this repertoire, where I try to stick with this super tricky alternatives, not really going for the main lines, but going for this interesting sacrifices that are putting a lot of pressure on our opponent. Because if he goes for one mistake, then it's just our advantage will start snowballing, and then it's going to be really hard for him to come back in the game. So after bishop c4, there are a few moves for black. Let's just first tackle the most natural one. If they take on f3, we can go knight takes on f3, and after knight f6, we can simply castle. And here, there are quite a few ways for black to go wrong. For example, bishop g4. We'll run into this really thematic tactic with bishop takes on f7, followed by knight e5. And you can see that after king g8, we can recapture the piece, and the white is much better. There is the material is even, but the enemy king is really weak, and this simply gives white a very big advantage. So another quite tempting move for black would be to play bishop f5, trying to develop and then play with e6 and finish his development. But there is no time for that, since we can go for bishop takes on f7 again. After king takes, we can play knight e5, and king e6 can be met with this beautiful rook takes on f5. And after king takes, queen f3, king e6. The king is not escaping because we have queen h3, and white is simply winning because king d6. There will be this knight c4 move, and we can at least pick up the queen. So this would be completely winning for us. And other than that, black probably has to settle for the passive bishop by playing e6, just stopping any bishop takes on f7 ideas. But after this, we can just play this queen e1. I mean, this king h1 move, and then the idea is to play queen e1. This is really what I meant, because now we're gonna be getting the queen to h4, and then the bishop comes to g5. We can even potentially reroute this bishop here. Just imagine black castling short. We will have a mating attack, and this is a very similar position to what we will see a little bit later in the 3e6 line. So just keep this one little idea in mind. So after bishop to c4, as I said, it takes on f3 would be one of the moves, and I think really what a lot of people would be playing. But black also can go for e5, striking in the center, which is leading to a little bit more complex play, but still very interesting positions. And I think white is good, to be honest. So after taking on e5, the point is to play bishop c5, and this looks quite awkward to meet, since there's also a bishop f2 plus the bishop takes on g1 threat that are looking quite scary. But you have to remember this very important move, knight takes on e4, simply giving away the g1 knight, because after bishop takes, we can go knight e6, and black is starting to have some problems with his own king as well, because after king f8, just don't take anything, because queen f2 is a huge threat, but we can just play queen e2, and now we can continue our attack with knight takes on f7 ideas, or knight takes on c8. And I've analyzed this position in great depth, so don't be afraid if you don't feel comfortable playing down a piece here. I have a lot of analysis on this position in the main chapter that you can check and get a little bit more familiar with what's what in this position. So I think we can stop here and say that white has a very interesting play. And instead of this e5, black can also try to play the move knight f6, which I think it's honestly the best line that black has. And after pawn takes, the idea is to play e5. But again, not so many people will be able to find this response. And also, even if they do, we're still getting very interesting positions. After pawn takes on e5, knight g4 is the point, threatening both knight takes on e5 and then queen f2 as well. So we play queen e2, defending against the threat on f2, knight takes on e5. And notice that black is threatening to eliminate our bishop pair, so we want to keep the bishop on the board. And after bishop g4, attacking our queen, we can just play knight f3, knight e7. And you can see that castle short is not really possible since the queen is covering that diagonal, and also bishop e3 would be met by bishop c5. Whoops, I think I've thrown way too many arrows. So the idea was to point out that bishop e3 will be met with this. So it's just a bit better to play bishop d2, preparing castle long. And in this position, I think that white has a small edge because we are going to be playing h3 on the next move. Then if the bishop goes to h5, then we can go potentially with g4 and knight h4. And if black does something like h3, bishop takes on f3, we can take with a pawn, and then we will have f4 ideas to kick the enemy knight from e5 with a slightly better position for white. So instead of this, actually I think we just finished covering the queen b6 move, and now we can jump onto something that is a little bit more common, but I think actually we're gonna be looking very quickly at the twisted fantasy, and I'm gonna be leaving the ultra main lines for the very end of this. So in this position, black can also play the move e5, and this is also could arrive from this move order after queen b6 and knight c3. Black can play e5, and we will transpose to the twisted fantasy again, as you will see. So I'll just explain that from the other move order. After f3, they can also play the move e5, and here the point is after takes, black goes for this bishop c5. Queen b6 is also possible. We will get to the same position in a moment. Here after bishop c5, it's really important to play the move knight c3, because with bishop c5, what black is really preparing is this queen to b6 move. That's going to be really annoying. So we want to be playing knight c3 in order to be able to meet queen b6 with this knight a4. And this is, very concrete, so I think you really have to know this line by heart. So I highly advise you to jump into the move trainer and do a lot of practice with these lines. It's going to take a while since you get familiar with it, but this gets played against me quite often, I would say. So it's something that you want to keep in mind because yeah, I mean, if they take you by surprise with this line, it could be can get quite uncomfortable. So yeah, I mean, if you know what you're doing, I think this line is really one of those lines where you can score like a lot of points, as I do. So after knight a4, there are two main options that black has. Queen a5 is the main line, but bishop f2 could also look tempting for some players. So after bishop f2, we can simply play king to e2. Don't go king d2, because that's allowing mate in 1. So we don't want that. But after the move king to e2, there is queen d4. Only move to really keep the bishop, defend it. But here it's a really nice endgame after queen takes, bishop takes, and the move f4, which is really important. Because black is threatening to collect this pawn, so they can just defend it. And after pawn takes, we have this nice bishop e3 move. And after bishop takes, king takes, we have an endgame where the material is even, but our king is really active. This pawn is a little bit shaky on e4, and yeah, I think white has very nice play. We can consider something like bringing the knight to c5, the rook up to d1. There's also like bishop c4 ideas, knight e2. With very nice play for white. So instead of this, queen a5 is really the main move, and after playing c3. By the way, this line was also played once by Alireza Firouzja against Wei E, so that's definitely a game that you need to be aware of while facing this line. So after c3, now their point is to take on g1. Notice that white is creating a threat of playing b4, and yeah, also this queen a5 move was hitting the knight and the king. So with c3, we're both defending the a4 knight and also preparing to push b4. So after bishop takes on g1, rook takes, d takes on e4. Black is threatening to take on e5. And here it's important to play this bishop f4 move. So just keep this one in mind. Because now if black goes for the most natural knight e7, we can play b4, attack the queen, and here there are two moves. Queen c7, I would say it's a very common mistake that people make, because this allows queen d6. And after queen takes, pawn takes, attacking the knight, knight g6, bishop g3. White has very annoying pressure with something like castle oncoming, knight c5, bishop c4, and this pawn is just super annoying on e6. So white has a big edge, and after b4, the main line is to play queen d5, and after knight to c5, really important move. Queen takes on d1, rook takes on d1, and now they go knight to d5, hitting both the pawn and the bishop. But here we have bishop to g5, with the idea that knight takes on c3 will allow the checkmate in on d8. So black plays h6 here, attacking our bishop. But now we take on e4. This is really important. Again, this is like a little bit concrete, so this is why you may be looking forward to practice this a lot in the move trainer. But yeah, once you get it done, I think, again, white is getting really nice positions. So, pawn takes on g5, can take on d5, and after pawn takes, rook takes. White has a very nice position, since after rook takes on h2, we can play e6, and then can collect on g5 with a much better position. So, yeah, this would be pretty much it about this twisted fantasy variation. And this allows us to move on to one of the very main lines, which is the move pawn takes on e4. And after pawn takes on e4, black has to combine this with e5. And now we're going to simply ignore it. Please keep in mind that there is a queen h4 threat in the position. So we're going to be playing the move knight f3, preparing to go for quick development and also stopping black from going queen h4. And in this position, I have analyzed pretty much everything that's playable for black. We will start with the move bishop to e6, and it's important to know that just don't grab on e5, because that will allow queen h4. And against this, I would say this is really like one of those rare moves that are sort of rarely played. But, you know, I still get to face those regularly, I would say, in my blitz games. So, you know, it's nice to sort of be aware of it. And here we just play c3, keeping our nice pawn center. And then after knight f6, we're just going to play bishop d3, defend the pawn. And after knight d7, castle, bishop d6, we can play king h1. Next, we're going to be playing bishop e3, knight bd2. And if any knight g4 comes, then we want to be able to retreat our bishop to g1. So just remember this key idea. If black ever goes knight to g4, you want to be able to mate it with bishop to g1. And then, you know, you can kick black's knight with h3. Or anyways, the bishop from g1 is very nicely placed because it's protecting our center. And yeah, it's just a very nice setup that white has. Plus also later we can maneuver it via h2 after pushing h3. From where it's going to be putting pressure on the e5 square. So yeah, this is what you sort of need to know against bishop e6. So moving on with the alternatives, a very popular move in this position is going for e takes on d4, which I personally faced quite a lot in my own games, and I really want to draw your attention to this particular variation, and I would highly advise you go to the move trainer and practice all the trainables that there are, because this is really one of those lines where you can actually be scoring a lot of quick wins, or at least you will be getting quite a big advantage directly from the opening, because you're going to be playing the move bishop to c4, and here black has two main moves at his disposal, and the main one that I faced is the move knight f6, which allows us to play castle short, and here a lot of players are going for bishop to c5, which is actually very good for us because there is no need to be scared of any potentially discovery with d3, because this is not really doing that much since we can just sidestep it with king h1. So after bishop c5, our move is to play knight g5, and I really want you to remember this trick because we're forcing black to go for castles. And in this particular position, it is really important to take on f7 with the bishop. And I've done a lot of research in this position, and I've seen that most of the people are actually getting this trap, but they are doing it wrong. They are taking on f7 with the knight. And, you know, it might actually look like the same thing, but if you take on f7 with the knight, you're allowing black to go for queen e7, which is a very surprising move that all of a sudden turns the tables, and black is already slightly better because there is actually no discovery, no useful discovery that white has in this position. So it's really a key move to take on f7 with a bishop. So I really want to mention that in some lines you will have the same position, but with the bishop from c5 being on e7. So in that case, yes, it will be fine to take on f7 with a knight. But here, really important and precise to take with the bishop. And after rook takes, also I've covered king h8 and e5, knight g4, queen e3 in the main chapter, so you can check that one out as well. But after rook takes on f7, this is what most of the people are doing. We take on f7, king takes on f7, and in the first place, we invested 2 minor pieces for the rook, which is not really such a profitable trade, but here you can see that we can play e5, and we will be picking up the f6 knight because of the pin, and then we will end up picking up the exchange. So again, this is a very common trick, and I got that a lot of the times in my own games. I think I also have like a lot of YouTube videos where I'm getting this trap. So this is really common, guys. Just be prepared to take advantage of it. And yeah, after bishop c4, another quick mention that black has also a move such as knight e7, and here we're going to be playing castles. And after knight f6, it's really important to play queen e1, as also mentioned by Erwin Lamy in his course, I believe. So after queen e1, black has 2 moves. One of them is knight b6, which will be met by bishop b3. And after bishop e6, we can go knight g5, putting pressure on the e6 bishop. And here black has 2 ideas. Queen e7 is the more solid alternative. And after knight takes on e6, pawn takes, we can develop with tempo with bishop to g5, attacking the f6 knight. And after bishop e7, we can play knight e2. And white has very nice compensation because of this weak pawn that can be attacked after queen g3, queen h3, with a lot of pressure on black's weak pawn. So instead of that, after bishop takes on b3, a8 takes on b3 could potentially lead to a disaster for black. After h6, we have this super strong e5, and after ag5, taking on f6 is leading to a completely winning position for white, since king d7 will be met with taking on g7, followed by rook f7, with a completely winning position. So after queen e1, another move that black can go for is bishop to e7, trying to finish his development, but we're in time with e5, attacking the knight, and after knight to d5, we can go bishop takes, pawn takes, and now we have this super annoying queen g3 move, because castle short will allow us to go for bishop h6, and black has nothing better to do than to go g6 in order to stop the checkmate, and that will allow us to pick up the exchange with a much better position. And also, if they go for g6, we can just play bishop h6, keep the king in the center, and then we can continue with knight e2, knight b3, and then take on d4. And yeah, we can bring our rook to e1 with e6 ideas. And white has a much better position. We can now move on to bishop to g4, which is one of the very solid lines that black has. And this is also what Erwin Lamy is recommending in his very nice course on the Caro-Kann, his lifetime repertoire. So after bishop to g4, I really like the move c3 here, following Fabiano Caruana's footsteps. And after knight to d7, we want to be playing for the bishop d3 move. Again, just keeping the e4 pawn under protection. Bishop c4 is an alternative, but yeah, I really like to just follow Fabiano's game. And after bishop to d3, black goes knight f6. We castle short. And here black has also, bishop e7 is another move that's available, but I'm covering that in the main chapter. So bishop d6 is really one of the main lines of this whole fantasy, and this variation was known to be sort of very just very good for black. Black was known to have an easy game here, but I think the move that they discovered here is really asking some serious questions to black's setup, which is the move knight e3. Because what a lot of people have done here was the move knight b to d2. But then the knight from d2, it's threatening to go to c4. Then you can also just go like b5. And then the knight from d2 does not have so many squares to go to. And now after knight e3, basically the main idea is that if they would be playing b5, then the knight can still get into the game after knight c2, knight to e3. So this is the ultra fresh line that I think really keeps White's setup alive, and it's giving you a very good objective chance for an advantage. So after knight a3, really what is the most critical move is what Erwin recommends in his course, which is taking on a3. But again, this decision is quite double-edged, and I still think that White does have a little bit the easier play, since after pawn takes castle short, we can go h3, I think rook b1 is what Erwin is focusing in his course, by the way. So after h3, already, we can get some fresh positions, and after bishop h5, we can simply play queen c2. And I did analyze this position in quite a lot of depth. I think the theory goes up to like 10 extra moves from here, even though there are not really many gains from this position. But I just wanted to make sure that you're covered, and when you're going into these lines, you will be feeling quite comfortable playing them. So bishop takes on a3, definitely a big alternative for black. But not so many people are actually going for it. Like I've faced in this position, both the move b5 and the move short castle, quite often. So if b5, as I said, we're going to be playing knight c2, bishop h5, knight e3, castles. Once we get a knight to f5, it's a very nice game for us, because the knight is very active, and this actually happened in the game Caruana against Alireza Firouzja, which is covered in the theory chapter and in the model games as well. So I highly advise you to check that one out. And after castle short, we can play knight c4. This is really the idea, going with the super active knight, attacking the bishop, and also putting pressure into the center. And after bishop c7, we can play bishop g5. Which is creating this very annoying pin on the knight, and also threatening to take on f6 in a number of positions. For example, if black plays b5, you can play knight e3, hitting the bishop, and after bishop h5, queen c2, after rook e8. This is really a typical move in the fantasy, by the way, this queen c2, just keeping the e4 pawn well defended, and after rook e8, we can play knight f5, with a very annoying knight for black on f5. We can continue with rook a e1. I just really like White's setup here, because we have this nice pawn center. So after bishop g5, rook e8 is the main move. But again, we can just stick with this queen c2 move, which is again very common for the line, keeping the e4 pawn well defended. And we're having this knight e3 with knight a5, knight f5 next. In mind, with quite a pleasant position for White. So also keep in mind that we have a direct threat of bishop takes on f6 here, because if they take with a queen, then knight e5 is going to be a very unpleasant discovery on the queen. So black has some problems with his central pawn. So moving on to the e6 line, this is, I think, what is going to be played by the stronger players. Since it's not really trying to equalize immediately, but it's trying to keep a more of a solid fight ahead, and just basically getting into this more complicated strategical positions. And this move again doesn't really require that much theory to play. So this is what I used to play with black, and also what I think most of the people used to do before Erwin's course. So after knight c3, then the main idea is to play a bishop to b4, basically threatening to take on c3, and then after pawn takes d4, fe4, queen h4 will be an unpleasant check, hitting both the e4 pawn and the king. So here I'm gonna be recommending this kind of cute a3 move, which as I said, is not really a main line, at least not the most popular move, but I think a line that is putting a lot of pretty tricky questions that black needs to answer. So after bishop takes on c3, bishop a5 is also a move that I've covered in the main chapter, but most of the people, I think, will take on c3 and then they will take on e4. And main point here, don't take on e4, because that will allow queen h4, and instead go for this knight h3 move. That is my main recommendation. And this particular line is really one of the main reasons of why I really started picking up this fantasy variation, because the upcoming positions are actually very dangerous for black. And if you just stick with the natural moves, then white is getting very close to winning position. And after knight h3, they really have to come up with some very precise moves, because if they stick with the normal looking approach of taking on f3, can take with a queen, and after knight f6, we can play bishop d3, and after castle short, we can castle, and after knight d7, queen g3, we're planning to play bishop h6, and we have all kinds of really nasty ideas of playing, sometimes even queen h4, bishop g5, and then black is simply getting mated here, because we just have way too many pieces on the king side. So this is, again, covered in greater depth in the main chapter. So we'll make sure to check that one for more details. And after knight h3, they can also play this e5 move, which is creating this threat of bishop takes on h3. So we cannot allow black to take there. So we play knight g5. And after h6, we can take on e4, knight f6, and queen e2. I think it's a really nice move to have here. Also, keeping in mind that the e5 pawn is now quite vulnerable. And after knight takes, we can take with a queen. And after castle short, we can take on e5. And I don't really see a lot of compensation for black here, since we can just play bishop d3 on the next move, threatening queen h7. And also then we can just castle, and white is up a healthy pawn. So I think that should be it for the quick starter of the fantasy variation. So I think you're pretty good to go. Again, make sure to be aware of these lines that are arising after taking on e4, and then e5, knight f3, taking on d4, bishop c4. I had quite a lot of these in my own games, so this is really one of the main fields where you're going to be scoring a lot of points. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next quick starters. So it's time now to move on and cover the French defense, and the moves. The starting moves are e4, and now we have e6. Pretty similar with the Caro-Kann. Black is preparing to step into the center and then being able to recapture with a pawn. So after d4, d5, we're going to be playing the move bishop to d3, which is the so-called Schlechter variation. And it's again a line that is becoming really trendy, and this maybe like 5 years ago was not very popular, but nowadays it's used by very strong players from white's side. So one of the perks of this variation is that it's very annoying for players that were going for the win hour, which is arising after knight c3, bishop to b4. They will no longer get into those pawn structures. And it's also quite annoying for the Rubinstein players that were normally used to take on e4 against everything, and then just after knight takes on e4, we have the Rubinstein variation. So against bishop d3, black can play the move d takes on e4, but then the main idea is that after bishop takes on e4, knight on f6, attacking the bishop, we have this additional idea of playing bishop to f3. And the bishop is quite nicely placed on f3, and this bishop on c8 is a little bit more passive, and usually black does have some issues developing it. So nevertheless, we're going to be coming back to d takes on e4 a little bit later, because we're going to be starting with the move c5, which is also what Anish Giri is recommending in his lifetime repertoire on the French. And it's also a very playable line for black, very natural move. And here it's important to take on d5, and after he takes on d5, we're going to be playing the move knight f3. Taking on c5, it's also a playable alternative for white. This is what Bogdan Deac used to play in a lot of his games. And yeah, I think that's also doable if you really like to play against the isolated queen pawn, but I don't think you can really play for an advantage, objectively speaking. So I recommend knight f3, and here black has, I would say, two main moves. One of them is knight c6, and the other one is to kick the bishop immediately with c4. We're going to start with knight c6, and after castle short, the idea is to, now that mate c4, knight f6 is also a move. Let's actually start by covering it. Here we can get a very nice version of the isolated queen pawn position after the move rook e1, forcing black to block the check. And now, after something like bishop e7, we can go d takes on c5. And you can see that black cannot really recapture the pawn immediately. So black has to go for short castle. But now we can go bishop g5. And usually it wouldn't really be such a great idea to play bishop g5 when the enemy bishop is on e7. Because, you know, the knight is not pinned and we're not going to give up the bishop for the knight, you know, voluntarily speaking. So yeah, taking on f6 wouldn't really be a big idea, but we're actually getting ready for the fact that black is going to play bishop takes on c5. Now this bishop is actually quite nicely developed here, putting pressure on this knight. So now after bishop takes on c5, we can simply play the move knight b to d2, and white has a very pleasant position. We could continue with something like c3, and then knight b3, fix this pawn on d5 basically, so black is never going to be able to push d4, and then we can slowly maneuver around it with a very pleasant position for white and the typical edge. So instead of this knight f6 move that allows the IQP, black can go c4, which is very similar to going c4 a little bit earlier, but now white gets an additional idea of throwing this check in with the move rook to e1, gaining a tempo. And after bishop to e7, we can retreat the bishop all the way to f1, so we no longer have to go bishop e2 as against the immediate c4. So now black usually plays knight f6, and here we're going to be playing b3, forcing black to take on b3, and then we can recapture towards the center and opening up our rook. And b5 wouldn't really be a great move, but I think a lot of players are still making this mistake. And I've noticed this a lot while playing in lower rated games. I have done some studies on this, you know, trying to see how the lower rated players are handling these openings, and I really found out that a lot of those players are going b5 when you can simply play a4, and after pawn takes on a4, we can take on c4, and after d takes, bishop takes, white is simply winning already, because we will be able to recapture this pawn and yeah, have an extra pawn. Any bishop g4 moves can simply be met by even the aggressive d5, or we can just play c3 and defend our pawn on d4 and then collect. So this would be completely winning for white right from the opening. And after b3, they do have to take on b3. This is the main move and the only good move for black. And after pawn takes on b3, opening up the rook, activating it quite nicely, and castle short, white goes for this plan of activating the knight with knight e5. And one of the key ideas of playing this type of positions would be to take on c6, let's say pawn takes c6, and then we're going to be playing bishop a3, trading the dark squared bishops, and then ideally we will be getting the knight to the c5 square, as you will see in the main chapter about this variation, that this is quite a common idea that white gets. So yeah, I think this is enough for this particular line with 5 knight c6, so we can move on to the 5 c4 move, which is forcing us to play bishop e2, but yeah, there's no problem with that. We can just go bishop e2 and then implement sort of similar ideas after bishop d6 castle. Black has many setups, but for the quick starter, I decided to pick the move knight e7 as one of the very common things that black has. Obviously, knight f6 is also a move, but knight e7 is also what they usually do when they start playing with this bishop d6 move. So now we go b3, cb3, ab3, castle shot. And now I really like to go for a bit of a newer move because in this position they used to play c4 quite a lot. And then after c4, it's not really that great because after c4, knight c6, knight c3, bishop g4. I've noticed that black has a very comfortable setup, and yeah, this is not really according to my taste. And I did a lot of analysis from this particular position, and came to the conclusion that this is not great for us. I mean, it's playable, but it's not leading to an opening advantage. But after castle short, I actually found a very interesting game that went knight a3. And yeah, I think actually we are stopping here in the quick starter because yeah, don't want to go too deep with it. And yeah, the idea is to actually play for c3, and then we're gonna be bringing this knight over to e3, and then the knight is gonna be really annoying there. Just imagine black plays something like bishop f5 or like bishop g4, and then this whole knight e3 business is gonna come with tempo. And then we're just staying very flexible, and at some point we will be able to break with c4 at the right moment. It's just that we're not rushing with it. So yeah, for more details about this line, you can check out the theory chapter, and also the model game section. The gameplay between Alexeyev and Glazerov is really something that you need to know by heart if you want to be playing this line successfully. So yeah, I think this would pretty much sum it up against this c5 move, and we can move on to knight f6. This is very popular again in lower rated games, because after this kind of knight f6 move is played by by a lot of players that are simply going against knight c3. They like to play like this: knight c3, they do knight f6 against knight e2. They go for the same knight f6. So for them, it doesn't really matter what you do. They know to play this knight f6. So yeah, it's really could happen against bishop d3. But in this particular case, we are quite happy to see this knight f6 move on the board, because it gives white a very good version of it. Particularly because after e5, knight e7, I really like this flexible move following Onischuk's games. So Onischuk, Vladimir, is a very strong player that has a lot of great games in this line, and is really one of the model players that I chose while preparing this repertoire. So c3, here black goes c5, knight f3, knight c6, and we're castling short. And in the main chapter, I've analyzed like a lot of ideas. I've analyzed bishop e7 followed by castle short. I analyzed like h6 followed by g5. All kinds of crazy idea that black has. But yeah, everything is covered, so there's no need to be afraid of them. Just make sure to check out the theory chapter. But in this particular one, we're gonna be covering c takes on d4, followed by queen b6 or queen b6 immediately. So starting with cd4. This is usually something that black does when trying to hunt the d4 pawn. It's quite a common theme in the French. cd4, queen b6, and here the move bishop to c2 is sort of playable. I think you can go for it and keep a slightly better position if you are more of a positional player. But I really like to go for the gambit here, play the move knight c3, with the main idea that after knight takes, queen takes, we have this strong move knight b5. Attacking the queen and eyeing the c7 square. So black takes on e5, and after rook e1, attacking the queen. He has to play queen b8, otherwise we're going to be forking on c7. Here I really like the move queen g4, which is keeping an eye on this pawn, so black is unable to develop, and also we are threatening to play bishop f4 in the next move, and the queen is quite awkwardly placed on b8, and yeah, white is already much better, as you know, covered in greater depth in the theory chapter. So this would be it about c takes on d4. And another very common move for black is to go queen b6 here. And this is something that you really need to remember, okay? Like just go to the move trainer, practice this a lot. Like you really need to get this down. before going into this line. Because if you don't play the next move, then black might get a playable position. It's not like you're gonna have like a hard time playing with white. Like you can get just a normal position. But if you follow my main recommendation here, you have very good chances of getting quite a big edge from the opening. So the idea is to take on c5, and now black's pieces are sort of awkwardly placed, as we will get a lot of time on the queen side. As for example, after bishop takes, we can go b4, attacking the bishop, and after bishop e7, our pawn on e5 is hanging, so we need to defend it with queen e2 usually. This is a good move, this or also rook e1, but usually both rook e1 and queen e2 are good moves in this structure. And after castle short, we can play a4, and we have ideas to play bishop f4, defending this e5 pawn, and then we can play something like knight e2, get knight to b3, attack with a5, and it's just that black's pieces are really stuck. I mean, his position is really cramped, and white has a very nice advantage. So, yeah, this would be pretty much it about the move knight f6. As I said, this move against bishop d3 is actually quite dubious. You can take advantage of it. Like what we've seen in the previous line where black played 3c5, that is actually like a better line from a theoretical point of view. But this knight f6 move is again like very popular. I did a lot of research according to both over the board games and also what they tend to play in online games. Knight f6 is very popular, and yeah, you can just get a great position by going e5 and then following this little c3 move and following my recommendation. So instead of this, another very popular thing that black does is taking on e4, and yeah, I would say this together with c5 are the biggest alternatives that black has. So we're going to be taking with the bishop. Knight f6 is more or less forced. Bishop f3. And here black has some sidelines as well. Like again, I've covered literally everything that is playable in the theory chapter. But we're going to be sticking with the ultra main lines, which is c5, knight e2. And generally black does like two things here. Okay, let's actually say three things. Yeah, I changed my mind. So one of them is they simply don't know any theory, and they take on d4, and then after queen takes d4, knight takes on d4. White has a very nice position, and I will show you why, and then we will come back to the other two things that I need to mention. So after knight takes, we're threatening some annoying moves like knight to b5, and here after a6, for example, it's really nice to play knight to d2. Because a lot of people would just go knight c3 here, which again is like a nice move. You're still like slightly better, but it's much better to just go knight d2. And then we are preparing to play knight c4 and then knight b6, and all of a sudden black is in a really awkward situation. So after knight d2, black is already in trouble. So yeah, coming back to the other things that I was did to say. Yeah, they either take on d4 and just give you a free advantage in those endgames, or they go knight c6, bishop e3, and then they take on d4, they play knight e5, then they stick with the main lines. Or actually, some people are simply going for the endgame, which is after knight c6, bishop e3, the move e5 here, which I used to sort of ignore when I first started to play this line as white. But this is actually like a very playable line for black that you really need to be aware of, because if you don't know how to react to it immediately, like for example, in a lot of my blitz games, I used to do this poor move of taking on e5, and then they just trade queens and take on e5, and black is already slightly better. But it's important to really take on c6 first, and then after pawn takes, we take on e5, queen takes, king takes, knight e4, and here I like knight e2, and after knight takes on e5, white has this really interesting rook e1 idea, and yeah, I've really covered this in much greater depth in the theory chapter, but I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that this is a possible line that black has, so you want to keep that in mind. And yeah, we can move on to cd4, knight takes on d4, and yeah, if black does go for knight takes on d4, as I said, this is leading to very pleasant endgames after queen takes on d4, queen takes, bishop takes, this is really nice for us. Just look at our bishops. This bishop is both eyeing the queen side and the king side, and this bishop is also putting a lot of pressure here on the b7 pawn. So yeah, you shouldn't really be worried about this move. Instead, just be welcome when they play it against you. So after knight takes on d4, really the main move is to play knight e5, and here we're going to be playing the move knight c3. And in this position, black does have a variety of moves. a6 is the most popular one. Taking on f3 is actually quite a common mistake that people tend to do, because if you're rushing with it, then white is getting quite a quick initiative. And again, that move is covered as well in the theory chapter. But black can as well play moves such as bishop e7 or bishop e4. So yeah, all of them are covered in the main chapter. So we're gonna be focusing on a6 here. And here we're gonna be playing queen e2. And now that we spent the tempo on making this move, preparing to castle long, I just want to quickly mention that castle short is playable, but it's not really that ambitious, and I think it's very hard to fight for an objective advantage. So queen e2 is more ambitious, and after knight takes on f3, most of the players I think are going queen takes on f3, but I would like to suggest here quite a fresh move and take with a g pawn on f3, which I think is leading to very interesting positions that are not really that well analyzed, and I think we can get like a lot of surprise value. Plus, it's also quite good. I mean, the engines are quite happy about this move as well. So after knight d5, this is, I think, one of the main moves. I really like to take on d5 and then play castle long, with the idea that queen takes on a2, threatening queen a1, and then to knight b3. And then the queen is actually quite stuck on the queen side. So this might look a little bit scary, but again, just go to the move trainer into the main chapter, and you will see a lot of details about this position, where you'll see that white is actually doing very well. So I think that should sum it up for the French Quickstarter. As I said, bishop d3. I think it's a really cute move that white has. I really like playing this line, and I really expect you to be facing a lot of those upcoming endgames after cd4 and knight takes on d4. As I showed you here, I really expect a lot of people just going for this, and you're getting this nice endgame with this good bishop on f3 versus a slightly passive bishop on c8. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next quick starter. It is now time to cover what happens if black replies to 1e4 with d6. So this could basically lead to two big openings. One of them is the Pirc defense, and the other one is the Philidor. So after d6, we're going to be occupying the center with d4. And here, black could try to go e5, going for the accelerated Philidor, or he could play knight f3 and get quite a good position already. But I simply recommend going knight e2. And we will transpose to my recommendation, so no need to learn anything extra. So after d4, knight f6 is the main move, attacking the e4 pawn, knight c3, and now black can go g6, which is the Pirc. He can also play c6, which is the Czech defense. Again, pretty similar, I would say, to the Pirc. I tend to put them in the same family, this Czech defense and the Pirc. And black can also go for the move e5, which is the Philidor, and I think we're going to be covering it right away, just so we can get left with the Pirc and the modern, because those two are a little bit familiar, referring to the Pirc and the modern. So after e5, black is basically offering this endgame, which we are not interested to enter. After d takes on e5, d takes on e5, takes on d8, king takes on d8. It looks like black has lost the right to castle, but in fact, black is ready to go c6, king c7, and have quite an active, quite a safe king on c7, and yeah, these positions have been debated quite a lot, and the theoretical point of view is that black is fine. So yeah, no need to go there, but instead, people are here playing the move knight f3 quite a lot, but I personally like the move knight g2 e2, which is actually, it's a little bit inferior compared to knight f3 because it's not attacking the e5 pawn, but it actually has quite a nice idea. We can play g3, bishop g2, and then castle short with a very easy game. So here, black has a few alternatives. E d4 would be the Antoshin variation after knight takes on d4, and bishop to e7. I also covered g6 in the Fury chapter, but again, no need to complicate with that for now. So after bishop e7, I really like the move queen f3 here. And this is not really the most popular move in this position. Bishop f4 used to be the main move for a while. I think it was also recommended by Negi Parimarian in his books. But I found out that white needs to know quite a lot of theory in order to fight for an advantage, and the lines are quite complicated. And I decided that, this line is actually quite rare, and usually the people that are going for it know it really well. And yeah, I mean, there's just like a lot of move by move stuff that you tend to forget over time if you don't practice on a regular basis. So I think it's much easier to stick with this queen f3 move, which is actually preparing to play knight f5. This is a very new line. So after castle short, we're going to be playing knight f5 with the idea that after rook e8, we can get rid of the bishop there by taking on e7. We can play bishop g5, putting pressure on the f6 knight. And after knight d7, long castle, queen e5, we can simply retreat the bishop to f4, attacking the queen, and meet queen a5 with bishop to d2. So yeah, I think it's a good moment to stop here, and yeah, we can continue with something like bishop queen g3, bishop d3, f3, bring the rook to e1, king b1 at any point, and then knight d5 will also become quite an annoying idea that black has to deal with because the queen on a5 is not that safe. And overall, it's just a very nice position for white to play because we have the bishop pair and the long-term advantage. So instead of rook e8, black can also take on f5, try to eliminate our knight. But we would be happy to see that because we have queen takes on f5. And after this, white simply has the bishop pair and the easier game. We can literally stop here. I don't think we need to complicate it anymore. And I would much rather prefer to just get the bishop pair right off the bat and play a slightly better game than going into any crazy variations, as you would have to if you play the move bishop f4 here, which is, like a little bit better if you look at it with an engine, but it's really yourself that will that will be playing over the board, not the machine. So you want to be making smart choices. So instead of e d4, black can also play c6, which is preparing to push b5, and again it's still allowing white to take on e5 and go for the ending. But as I said, we're not really interested in taking on e5, and we can just play a4. This is really important, guys, because black is threatening to push b5, and then after b5, then black will get quite a lot of space on the queen side. So we don't want to allow that, and whenever we see the c6 move, immediately we want to be replying with a4. So just remember this because it's really important. So we have bishop e7, g3, preparing to fianchetto the bishop, castle, bishop g2. And now usually black goes a5 himself with the idea to bring the knight to b4, like this. We can castle, black plays knight a6, we can go h3, which is a really nice move that is preparing to play g4, knight g3. Not immediately, but at some point this is always a great idea. We have knight b4. And here it's really important to avoid the move bishop to e3 because it looks very natural, but here black would be getting into e d4, bishop takes on d4, and then d5 with very good counterplay. So instead it's really important to play the better move, which is f4. And after f4, white is already having a very nice position, and yeah, I think we can simply stop here, saying that white has extra space, and yeah, then we can play something like bishop e3. Anyways, or even we have ideas of extending even more with g4, and then knight g3 ideas. But as I said, bishop e3 is also quite commonly seen. So yeah, instead of this c6 move, that can also play knight b to d7, which is the so-called Hanham variation. And here we're going to be doing the same thing. So this is really what I like, you see. I mean, it doesn't really matter what black does, but we keep the same ideas all the time. We're just going to go for the fianchetto and bishop e7, play bishop g2, castle, and after c6, as I said, whenever black does that, threatening to push b5, we're going to be replying with a prophylactic a4, stopping him from pushing b5, and after this, they usually reply with like b6. We can play h3. They whenever they can. Black usually just pre-moves like this: bishop b7, queen c7, rook e8, bishop f8. I play these guys really like a lot, for the board tournaments. They just tend to pre-move those moves, but this is usually annoying if you're playing these lines without the fianchetto. But when you have this fianchetto formation, it's actually quite nice to see, because we get really nice positions after bishop e3, bishop b7, g4, and now we're threatening to play knight g3, and then break with either f4 or put g5 in some positions. So now after pawn to g4, black does go b5, and creating a threat of b4, but we can simply play knight g3, and now we can meet b4 with knight to e2, and white just has a very harmonious setup, and we are ready to push g5 or also break with f4, with just a very nice position for white to play. So I think this is pretty much what you need to know in order to quickly deal with this Philidor. So now that we took care of the Philidor, we can move on to the other openings, which are one of them is this c6 move, which is the so-called check defense, and this is a surprisingly popular opening at club levels. And I've been playing against this a lot, but it just gave me so many points. And if you do the right thing, then white is just getting a really nice position. So you want to be playing with f4, and after queen a5, the only thing that you need to be aware of is that black just pinned your knight, and the threat is to take on e4. So as long as you are aware of that and you don't blunder your e4 pawn, you should be good to go against this line. So here, I like to play bishop d3, which is the main move, defending the e4 pawn. I personally played e5 as well, which is another interesting line, but there's no need to go for it. So because bishop d3 is just better. And after e5, this is usually what black plays in order to not just get pushed by e5. So they play e5. We're going to be playing knight f3. And after bishop to g4, threatening to take on d4, because now the knight is pinned. We can simply play bishop e3, defending our d4 pawn. And after the move knight b to d7, we can play short castle. And if bishop e7, then it's time to start asking some questions to this g4 bishop by playing h3. And after bishop takes, queen takes, we have a nice space advantage. And we also have the bishop there. So white is already having quite a big edge without many risks, I would even say. So again, this would be a quick way to deal with this check defense. And now we can just dive into the Pirc defense, which, compared to the previous check defense, this is actually a much more serious opening. And this is, when I grew up, I used to consider this as a sideline, but nowadays, I really think that you need to have a very good repertoire, even against this kind of Pirc or the modern, because there's been like a lot of material on this opening, especially recently. We have a very good book by Mihail Marin on the Pirc, and also we have a new repertoire on chessable by Krzysztof Terlicki. So a lot of people are starting to pick up the Pirc which, can be quite annoying if you don't know how to play against it. So my recommendation would be to just stick with the most aggressive approach and play the Austrian attack. I have also tried myself bishop e3 and queen d2 with long castle or other systems. I basically tried everything that's playable, but I came down to the conclusion that f4 should be the best, objectively speaking. And after bishop g7, knight f3, there are two ways of playing this Pirc. One of them is to go for short castle, and the other one, which used to be very annoying for a long period of time, is the move c5, which is Mikhail Marin's recommendation in his book. So against c5, I think we will just start with that. I recommend taking on c5. There were a lot of lines, a lot of crazy lines going after, like bishop b5 check, bishop d7, e5, knight g4, and then both e6 or taking on d7. There's just like a lot of fury in these positions after knight g5. Somehow everything ends in in a perpetual or in like an equal position according to correspondence games and to the strongest engines. So I would simply not try to argue with that and instead take on c5 here, and with the idea that after queen a5, this is the trick that black goes for, pinning the knight and threatening knight takes on e4 while also preparing to recapture. And after queen a5, bishop d3 is also a move that you can play with the idea to go queen c5 and then play like queen e2, bishop e3. I was considering to recommend this for a while, but after doing deep analysis into these positions, I couldn't really come up with an objective advantage. I think the positions are around equal, like black gets enough counterplay. So therefore I came up with this sort of new move of playing queen to d3. And first of all, we're setting up a trap if black goes knight takes on e4, with the idea that queen takes on e4 will allow bishop takes on c3. We have this really cute move of going queen b5, just forcing the queens off, and after queen takes bishop d7, we can trade, and at the end of the line, just pick up the e4 knight with a winning position. But let's say they are not going to fall for this, so they will just continue with the standard move queen takes on c5. Then the point of queen d3 is to play bishop e3, develop with tempo. And after queen a5, again, this might seem like, maybe not so ambitious, maybe a little bit strange, if you're not familiar with this line, because we're going to be playing the move queen b5. So we have this sort of Sicilian pawn structure where we're forcing the endgame. But it's actually a surprisingly annoying endgame for black. And this is also mentioned in Mikhail Marin's book, that White is getting very interesting play here. And also, according to correspondence games, White is scoring quite well. So after queen takes on b5, we're going to be taking with the bishop. And here knight c6 is the best move for black. We're going to be castling. And here black usually goes bishop to g4. Because this is really important. Otherwise, we might simply play h3, g4, and black is not going to be able to play bishop g4 anymore. And here I really like to deviate a bit from Marin's book by playing the move bishop to e2, with the idea that we are preparing to take on f3 with the bishop, and after castle short, we can play h3, attack the bishop. Black has to take on f3, otherwise there's not much point in having played bishop g4. And here, we just get a really nice position where white has the bishop pair, and we can just push the pawns on the king side with basically a risk-free advantage. So I really like this approach for white, and I hope you do as well. And we can move on to, the other line in the Pirc, which is short castle, because I think c5, it's leading to a nice play for white after what I just showed with this d takes on c5 followed by queen d3 approach. So here, after castle short, this is what Christoph recommends in his lifetime repertoire, and also what a lot of players are doing. And here I recommend going for bishop to d3, which is the so-called vice variation, and it also used to be Bobby Fischer's favorite move. And in this position, black does have a variety of options. I would say that bishop g4 is very popular in online chess with an insane number of games. c5 also pretty common, and then knight e6 sometimes played as well. Actually knight e6 is very popular in over the board chess, and knight c6 is again very important line. So we're gonna start with this bishop g4 move, because I think you're quite likely to face it. And here I like to play h3, and after bishop takes, queen takes on f3, we already got the bishop here. Black goes knight c6, attacking the d4 pawn, and here we can play bishop e3, defending. And now the point for black is to play e5, because if they go knight d7, attacking the d4 pawn once again, we have this super strong move of playing e5, and all of a sudden, all of black's pieces are restricted by our nice pawn center. So after something like knight b4, we can simply go for a long castle, and if black takes our bishop, it's not really a problem, since after c6, we can play h4, and white does have a big initiative after h5, opening up the h-file on the next move, and the enemy king is having some issues. So instead of knight d7, e5 is the way to go for black, but after d takes on e5, pawn takes on e5, and f5, white has a really nice advantage, since knight d4, we can simply sidestep it with queen f2, we can castle long, and then we can push g4, g5, and black is simply struggling to deal with this pawn storm on the king side. So I just really want you to keep in mind this reaction, taking on e5 with a d pawn and then pushing f5. This is really an important sequence that you need to remember, and it's also like a little bit surprising for the black players as well. And I think this is enough for the bishop g4 move for now. And we can move on to c5. Against c5, I want you to remember that it's really nice to take, and after pawn takes, we can push e5. And after something like knight d5, we can simply trade a pair of knights and then play queen e2. And then we can activate our bishop with bishop e4, hitting the enemy queen. We can castle short, bring the rook to d1, and then, even develop this bishop to e3. It's just a slightly better position for white. But yeah, I mean, with easy play, because this bishop is restricted on g7, and white has the extra space. So it's kind of unpleasant to be in black's shoes here, so to speak. So after c5, you can see that you can get quite an easy advantage. Therefore, we can move on to knight a6. And the idea of this move is to prepare the c5 push while being able to recapture with the knight. And I've looked here at a lot of theoretical moves, but then I came up with this slightly surprising e5, which is not as popular, but I think it's actually leading to quite an easy game for white. After knight d7, I really like the move knight e2, and now after c5, the idea is to play c3. So just keep in mind that we play knight e2, so we can meet c5 with c3. You have to sort of understand these little moves, otherwise you wouldn't really be able to reproduce them in your own game. So when they're preparing to push c5, remember you want to be able to meet it with c3 here. So after cd4, we can take with a pawn, and after pawn takes on e5, I really like to take with the f pawn. Even though, as you will see in the main lines, we are happy to take from the center with a d pawn. Here it's nice to take with the f pawn, so we control this c5 square, and these knights are kind of clumsy here. So after something like knight b6, the line still goes on after castle short, knight b4. Again, really important to keep the bishop. And after knight d5, we can play queen e1. Idea to play queen h4, bishop h6, and knight g5, with a really nice attacking position for white. So having said all of this, we can finally move on to the main line of the Pirc, which is this knight c6 move, where I am recommending the same e5, and after pawn takes, we're going to be taking with the d pawn. This is really what I like about this repertoire, that we're going for this positional approach against the Pirc, because Usually when you're facing a Pirc player, it's usually someone that's quite sharp tactically and looking for like a lot of tricks. So while playing this kind of chess, I mean, you make it really hard for him because he has to choose between making passive defensive moves and it's much trickier than sacrificing a pawn for initiative or something like that. Talking from the perspective of the Pirc players. So after pawn takes, knight d5, we can play bishop to d2. And here bishop g4 is black's best try. This is what Christoph recommends in his lifetime repertoire. And after bishop e4, attacking the d5 knight, e6, h3, bishop takes, queen takes, knight e4. We can simply go queen f2 because the c2 pawn is defended. Queen d3 would be a bad move in view of knight b4 here, and black is winning. So just play queen f2, and after c5, castle long. I really like white's position in this case because I think we just have a little bit easier play with h4, h5 ideas, and yeah, I've covered this position in a great depth in the theory chapter. So I highly advise you to hop into the move trainer and start practicing these variations, and you will be very well prepared against this Pirc. So yeah, this is pretty much it about the Pirc in the Quickstarter. So now that we know how to handle it, it's time to move on to something that looks a little bit similar to the Pirc, which is the modern defense. But it's actually, not the same thing, despite the fact that it can transpose some of the times. But the difference in the modern is that black is playing the Svianchetto setup, but it is delaying the move knight f6. So this is really one of the key differences. So black is no longer rushing to develop the knight to f6. Instead, it's looking for more flexibility. So after g6, we're going to be playing d4, bishop g7, knight c3. And here, d6 would be the pure move for the modern. But black does have some alternatives as well. Like, for example, c5 is leading to the pterodactyl variation. Yeah, it's quite a funny name. And also after knight c3, another move is going for c6, which is the so-called Gurgenidze system, which is actually quite an interesting line for black and pretty solid. But I think if you do the right thing against this line, white is getting a really pleasant position. So after c6, we can play f4. As I said, we really like to go for this kind of Austrian attack. Black plays d5 here, and after e5, h5 is the main move. We're going to be playing knight f3, and black now is voluntarily giving up the bishop pair with bishop to g4. Here we play h3, bishop takes, queen takes, and here if black starts with h4, we can go for a quick f5. So they have to play e6 first, and now we can play bishop to e3. Black does go h4 now, but it's not really a problem that we have this sort of weak square on g3, because as you will see, black does not have an easy way to get there. So we can just play bishop to d3, the line goes knight h6, we can castle, black plays knight d7, and now after the very simple knight e2, we're looking forward to play b3 c4, and then just play on the queen side. So for example, we could even look forward to do something like completely blockade the queen side, then just try to break with b4, b5, and then if black goes something like knight f5, we can just meet that with bishop f2. And it's also quite tricky for black to find a safe place for the king, because whenever it goes short castle, we have ideas of eliminating the knight, and then this pawn on h4 could be vulnerable. I mean, black usually goes for this maneuver of playing bishop f8 to e7, but okay, more details about that in the theory chapter. I think we're good to go for now. So this pretty much be it for the Gurgenidze. We can move on to the pterodactyl variation. So here after knight c3, black plays c5, and this could be quite an annoying variation if you're facing it for like the first time. But if you remember how to play against this, you can actually get some very good positions from the opening. For example, after taking, black has two main ways of playing this. One of them is to go for the triple pawn variation with bishop takes on c3, or the other one is to go for queen a5, just trying to recapture the c5 pawn. So we will start by checking the bishop takes on c3 line, and after queen a5, it's important to play queen to d4, defending the pawns and also attacking the enemy rook. So after knight f6, it's really important to play this queen b4. And now if black would be playing queen takes on b4, followed by knight takes on e4, that would be a very nice endgame for us with even material, but with a bishop pair and a very nice space advantage on the queen side. And the game goes on after something like queen c7. There's like a lot of fury that I've covered in the fury chapter. So, yeah, instead of this, they could also go for queen a5 in this position, and I just want you to remember this trick. So we play bishop d2. Remember this move. Queen takes on c5, and also remember this one. Knight to d5. And now one of the main tricks is that if black would be to play something like, let me actually make a random move that loses. Let's say black plays something like d6, yeah, I think we can use that. We can play bishop b4, and after queen c6, we can play bishop to b5. And yeah, we're just spinning this queen, and if queen takes, then we go knight c7 with this nice fork. So white just wins. But yeah, just remember, you get this knight d5, and you have this bishop b4 followed by bishop b5 ideas, and white is in a very good spot. So after knight c3, the main move for the modern defense would be to play d6, and as I compared it to the Pirc, we really like to play in the Austrian attack fashion by playing f4. And here, if black does go for knight f6, that would be in direct transposition, but we are going to look on the lines where, black is playing in the modern fashion, trying to avoid going knight f6. So one of the ways would be to play a6. That is the main move of the modern. If they play e6, this is leading to the hippo, I would call it this way, where black plays like knight e7, then knight goes to d7, then they try something like this, b6, bishop b7, and they have this sort of symmetrical development, which again was covered quite a lot in the Fury chapter, so I'll just show you. One of the key lines, knight e7, bishop d3, knight e7, bishop e3, a6, and here I really like to go e5, because we're locking this bishop on g7, and we can play knight e4 on the next move, with a really nice position for white. And yeah, instead of this e6, much more common to play a6 here, go for the modern. And after knight f3, black goes b5, play the move bishop to d3. And here usually bishop b7 or knight d7 are the main moves. But if black would be playing b4, rushing to kick the knight, white is getting a nice position after knight e2, bishop b7. Castle short, knight f6, e5 because the pawn was under attack, knight to d5, and now c4 is very nice. And after b takes, castle short, you can play rook b1, activating the rook while attacking the enemy bishop with a really nice center for white. And you can notice that black's bishops are, especially the g7 bishop, is quite passive. So white is already much better here. Instead of b4, bishop b7 is one of the very popular moves where I really recommend you to play the move e5. And yeah, the way to remember this is that you want to be able to meet b4 with knight e4. So we're creating a square for the knight. And if black plays e6, we can go a4. This is really important. We want to force this weakness first, and after b4, we're going to be getting the knight to e4. Yes, you can get the knight to e4 immediately, but it wouldn't be as good as it is while throwing in this a4. So just go a4 and then knight e4. And instead of e6, if black plays knight d7, then a4 again, forcing black to weaken himself. Taking on a4 is leading to very nice positions for white after castle, knight h6, knight takes queen e2, and after e6, can play b3, knight f5, and then bishop to b2. And you can see that we have long-term pressure on this weak pawn on a6. So taking on a4 is never really a thing for black. So they usually go b4. But then again, you can play knight e4, with just a very nice position for white. You can follow it up with castle. You can play a5 if allowed. And then also just break with c3. and white has a very nice position overall. So instead of this, bishop to b7, knight d7 is another move that black has, but yeah, we get the same nice positions after e5. So more about that in the theory chapter. So yeah, I think that should pretty much cover it for the modern, I think. Let me actually check if I missed anything. a6, knight f3, yeah, bishop d3. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the quick starter, guys. As I said, make sure to check out the model game section as well if you want to get this repertoire quickly working in your favor. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the upcoming chapters of this course.